The phone call had lasted 23 minutes. Hayley had explained everything in detail, including her promotion at work, her new house, her Christmas plans, and more importantly, she had heard her father's voice on the other end. He had laughed. He had said, "I'm so proud of you." He had said, "I love you." But the next day when David Hasselhoff called his daughter, he said, "Merry Christmas. By the way, I'm sorry we couldn't talk yesterday." Hayley hadn't hung up, phone in hand, unable to breathe, because her father didn't remember anything. He didn't remember the 23-minute conversation. None of it. That's when Hayley understood. She had lost her father. He hadn't died, but he was gone. Christmas mornings are quiet, especially for those who live alone. When David Hasselhoff woke up on Christmas morning 2012 in his Beverly Hills home, the first thing he felt was a headache. Sharp, throbbing, like a hammer inside his skull. The second thing he felt was thirst. His mouth was like cotton. The third thing he felt was confusion, because on his phone screen there was a record, an incoming call from Hayley. Last night. 23 minutes. David looked at the phone. Then around him. He was in the living room, on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes. A bottle sat nearby, empty, a glass, knocked over, and a blurry, broken memory. The television being on, a movie playing, but which movie? He couldn't remember. He stood up slowly. The world swayed slightly, stumbled to the kitchen, drank water, then made coffee, and checked the phone again. Yes, Hayley. Last night at 8:45. They'd talked for 23 minutes, but David remembered nothing. The panic started as something small, a twist in his stomach. Then it grew, because this wasn't the first time. It had happened before. Conversations he'd had, and didn't remember, promises he'd made and forgotten, being with people and not knowing the next day who he'd been with. But this was different. This was Hayley, his daughter, and it was Christmas. And they'd talked for 23 minutes, but David's mind held nothing, just darkness, just emptiness. With his phone trembling in his hand, he called Hayley back. 3 rings, 4, 5, then voicemail. Hayley's voice, polite, distant. "You can leave a message. Hayley, it's Dad. I just wanted to say Merry Christmas, and I'm sorry we couldn't talk yesterday. You know how the holiday rush is, but I'm thinking of you. I love you. Please call me back." He hung up and waited, but Hayley didn't call back. David didn't fully understand what had happened that morning. Understanding took hours, days even, but the truth began to seep in slowly, like cracks. When he called Hayley, the tone in her voice, cold, controlled. "Hello, Dad. Hayley, finally caught you. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. You too, Dad. How are you? How's Christmas going?" "Good. How are you?" "I'm good. I'm good. I missed you. When I saw your message this morning, I wanted to call right away. We didn't get to talk last night, did we?" Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then Hayley's voice came, very quiet, very careful. "Dad, we talked last night." David tried to laugh. "Really? I don't remember." When 8:45. 23 minutes. David stopped. His laugh froze. "What? You called me, or I called you? I don't remember which, because it's the same every year. But we talked, Dad. We talked for 23 minutes. I told you about my new job, my new house, my Christmas plans, and you told me about Germany, the old days, Knight Rider, and you told me I'm so proud of you. You told me I love you. Then you started crying. Then the phone cut off. Either you hung up, or the phone dropped. I don't know, but we talked for 23 minutes. David sat down. His legs wouldn't hold him. Collapsed on the couch. I don't remember, Hayley. I know. There was no anger in Hayley's voice. Just exhaustion. Just a deep, bone-deep exhaustion. I know you don't remember, because you were drunk, like you always are. Dad, I'm not surprised anymore. I'm not shocked. I don't even cry. I'm just tired. I talked to you for 23 minutes. I told you about my life. And you were there but you weren't. I heard your voice but it wasn't you. And now you don't remember any of it. None of it. David wanted to speak, but words wouldn't come, because what could he say? I'm sorry. How many times had he apologized? It won't happen again. How many times had he said that? I'll change. How many times had he promised? I told you something last night, Hayley said, something important, and you said, wow, that's amazing. You said I'm so proud of you, but now you don't remember. I mean, you don't remember what I told you, do you? Hayley, I got engaged, Dad. Jake and I got engaged. I told you last night, and you cried. You said you were crying from happiness, but now you don't even remember that. The world spun around David. Engaged. His daughter had gotten engaged, and she'd told him, and David had been there, talked, congratulated, cried, but he remembered none of it. None of it. Just an empty black hole. Just lost time. Hayley, I mean, I don't remember, but I know you didn't know. That's why I'm telling you again. I'm engaged. We're getting married in August. And Dad, Hayley's voice broke. For the first time in that conversation she showed emotion. I'm not inviting you to the wedding. David's heart stopped. What? I can't invite you. Because you'll show up drunk, or you'll get drunk there. And you remember what happened at Taylor Ann's wedding. Right. You ruined it. And I can't let you ruin my own wedding. So I'm not inviting you. Hayley, please, I'll change. I promise. I'll go to treatment. I went before and you went before and came out and drank again. 3 times, Dad. 3 times. And every time you said this time is different. But it wasn't different. It was never different. And I can't believe your promises anymore. I can't believe your I promise anymore. Because you promise but you don't keep them. But this is different. This is your wedding. I should be there. As your father I should be there. As a father you should have been here. Hayley's voice hardened. Every day, every moment, without being drunk, while remembering. But you weren't. You never were. And I need to accept that now. I need to accept that you can't be there as a father. Hayley, I love you, Dad, but I can't trust you. And I need to put my own happiness above your addiction. So you're not invited to the wedding. I'm sorry, but this is my final decision. The phone went dead. David held the phone. Empty sound. Just silence. And the truth slowly settled. His daughter had gotten engaged. She'd told him last night. And David had congratulated her, cried, been happy. But he remembered none of it. And now he wasn't invited to the wedding. To his own daughter's wedding. The rest of Christmas Day passed in a blur. David sat on that couch, stared at the wall, at the ceiling, at his phone. He wanted to call Hayley back, beg, plead, promise again that he'd change. But what good would it do? She'd heard it all before. Every promise, every apology, every this time will be different. And every time he'd let her down. Around noon he got up and went to the bar. The bottles were still there, lined up like soldiers. Vodka, whiskey, gin. His old friends, his reliable companions, the ones who never judged, never left, never demanded anything except to be consumed. He poured a glass, vodka, clear, simple, effective, held it up to the light. This liquid had cost him everything. His marriages, his relationships with his daughters, his dignity, his memory. But it was the only thing that made the pain stop. The only thing that quieted the voice in his head that kept screaming. You're a failure. You're a disappointment. You're not good enough. He brought the glass to his lips, then stopped, because a thought occurred to him. A simple, terrible thought. If he drank this, he'd forget today too. He'd forget this conversation with Hayley. He'd forget her telling him about the engagement. Again, he'd forget being uninvited to the wedding. And tomorrow he'd wake up confused, reaching for the phone, wondering why his daughter wasn't calling him back. He'd forget, just like he forgot last night, just like he forgot so many nights, so many moments, so many pieces of his daughter's lives that he was supposed to be part of but wasn't because he was too drunk to remember. David put the glass down, not because he was strong, not because he'd suddenly found willpower, but because for the first time in years he was truly scared. Scared of what he was becoming, scared of the empty space where his memory should be, scared that one day his daughters would stop calling altogether, and he wouldn't even remember why. He picked up the phone, called someone he hadn't called in years, his sponsor. From the last time he'd tried to get sober, a man named Robert who'd left him his number and said, "Call me anytime, day or night, if you need help." Robert answered on the second ring. "Hello, Robert, it's David. David Hasselhoff." A pause, then David. "It's been a while. I know. I'm sorry." David's voice broke. "I need help. Where are you?" "Home. Are you safe?" "Physically, yes. But Robert, I talked to my daughter last night for 23 minutes, and I don't remember any of it. She told me she's getting engaged and I don't remember, and she's not inviting me to her wedding because you're an alcoholic," Robert said gently. "You can say it, David. That's the first step, saying it. I'm an alcoholic." The words came out like a confession, like admitting to a crime. "And I'm losing everything. I've already lost so much, but I'm still losing more, and I don't know how to stop. Have you had anything to drink today?" David looked at the glass on the table, still full. "No, not yet." "Good. Don't. I'm coming over. Give me your address." "You don't have to. David. It's Christmas. I'm alone. You're alone, and you just made the hardest call an alcoholic can make. I'm not leaving you alone with that. Give me your address." David gave it, and 40 minutes later, Robert was at his door. Not the Robert from his memories. That Robert had been in his 50s, fit, confident. This Robert was in his 70s now, grayer, slower, but his eyes were the same, clear, sober, present. They sat in David's living room. Robert saw the bottle, the glass, the evidence of years of drinking scattered around the expensive house. "Tell me what happened," Robert said. And David told him everything. The conversation he didn't remember, the engagement he'd forgotten, the wedding he wasn't invited to, the pattern of forgetting, promising, failing, the cycle that had been repeating for years. Robert listened, didn't interrupt, didn't judge, just listened. And when David finished, Robert said something simple. "You can't get yesterday back. You can't get that conversation back. You can't remember what you forgot, but you can decide what happens from today forward." "How?" David asked. "How do I do that?" "One day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. You don't drink today. That's all. Just today. Tomorrow is tomorrow's problem. But today you don't drink. And my daughters. Your daughters need to see action, not words. They've heard the words. They've heard the promises. What they haven't seen is sustained sobriety, real change. That takes time, months, years maybe, but it starts with today." Robert stayed with David that entire Christmas night. They talked. They sat in silence. They ordered Chinese food because nothing else was open. And when midnight came, Robert said, "You made it. 1 day sober. That's a victory." It didn't feel like a victory. It felt like the bare minimum, but it was something. Over the next weeks, David did something he'd never really done before. He took recovery seriously, not as a PR move, not as a quick fix, but as the work of his life. He went to meetings every day, sometimes twice a day. He called Robert every morning. He started therapy, real therapy, not just talking about his career and his fame, but about the pain underneath, the fear, the inadequacy, the voice that told him he was never good enough. He wrote letters to his daughters, not asking for forgiveness, not making promises, just acknowledging what he'd done, the pain he'd caused, the moments he'd missed, the father he hadn't been. Hayley didn't respond for 3 weeks. When she finally did, it was a short email. "Dad, I got your letter. I'm not ready to talk yet, but I'm glad you're getting help. Please keep going." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was acknowledgement. It was a door left slightly open. Taylor Ann responded faster, called him one evening. "Dad, I read your letter, all 5 pages. You've written me letters before, apology letters, promise letters, but this one was different. You didn't ask me for anything. You didn't promise anything. You just acknowledged what happened. That meant something." "I'm trying," David said, "really trying this time." "I know." Robert called me, told me you're going to meetings, doing the work. "That's good, Dad.
Keep doing it. Will you? Will you give me another chance? Taylor Ann was quiet for a long moment. Dad, I've given you so many chances. I don't know if I have another one in me, but I'll tell you what I can do. I can watch. I can see if you're really changing. And maybe, after some time, if you prove that this is real, we can talk about chances. It wasn't what David wanted to hear, but it was honest, and honesty was what he needed. Months passed. David stayed sober. Not perfectly. He slipped once, drank on a bad night, but instead of hiding it, he called Robert, went to a meeting, admitted what he'd done, started over, and that, Robert told him, was the difference. Relapse doesn't mean failure. Hiding the relapse does. You didn't hide. That's progress. 6 months after that Christmas phone call, Hayley called David. Dad, I want you to meet Jake, my fiancé. Can we have dinner? David's heart nearly stopped. Really? Yes. But Dad, I need you to understand something. This isn't me inviting you to the wedding. This is just dinner. Just meeting him. One step. That's all. I understand. Thank you, Hayley. Thank you for giving me this. The dinner was awkward. Jake was polite but cautious. Hayley watched David like a hawk, looking for signs. Signs of drinking. Signs of instability. But David showed up sober, stayed sober, talked like a human being, not a performer. And at the end of the night, Hayley hugged him. A real hug, not a polite, distant hug. A real one. You did good tonight, Dad, she whispered. I'm trying, he whispered back. I can see that. 3 months later, Hayley called again. Dad, the wedding is in 2 months. I've been thinking about what you said, about wanting to be there. And I've been watching you. Robert updates me. Taylor Ann updates me. And I've decided, I'm inviting you to the wedding. But Dad, if you show up drunk, if you drink at the reception, if you do anything to ruin this day, it's over. Not just the wedding. Us, everything. Do you understand? I understand, David said. And I won't let you down. You've said that before. I know. But this time, I mean it. And I'll prove it. The wedding day came. August 15th. Beautiful weather. Outdoor ceremony. David showed up 3 hours early. Sober, nervous, terrified of failing, but sober. He sat in the front row as Hayley walked down the aisle. She looked beautiful, radiant, happy. And when she passed him, she smiled. A real smile. And David felt something he hadn't felt in years. Pride. Not in himself, in her. For becoming the woman she was despite him, not because of him. After the ceremony, during the reception, people offered David drinks, just champagne for the toast. They said, just 1 glass, but David declined, drank water, drank soda, stayed present, stayed sober, stayed there. And when it was time for the father-daughter dance, Hayley took his hand. They danced to Unforgettable. The same song they danced to at Taylor Ann's wedding, the wedding he'd ruined. But this time was different. This time David was present. This time he remembered every second. As they danced, Hayley whispered, Thank you for being here, Dad. Really being here. Thank you for giving me the chance. David whispered back, You earned it. That night, after the wedding, David went home, sat in his quiet house, and for the first time in decades, the silence didn't scare him. He didn't need to fill it with alcohol. He didn't need to numb it. He could just sit with it and remember his daughter's smile, remember the dance, remember being a father, really being one. He called Robert. I made it through. I never doubted you would, Robert said. I doubted me. That's normal. But you did it anyway. That's courage. David thought about that Christmas phone call. The one he didn't remember. The 23 minutes that were gone forever. He couldn't get that back. He couldn't undo the pain he'd caused. But he could make sure it didn't happen again. He could make sure that from now on when his daughters talked to him, he'd remember. He'd be present. He'd be there. Not as David Hasselhoff the celebrity. Not as the Hoff. Just as Dad. And that, he realized, was all they'd ever wanted. All they'd ever needed. Just Dad. Present. Sober. There. The phone call had lasted 23 minutes. Hayley had told him about her promotion, her new house, her engagement, and David had been there but not there, had listened but not heard, had responded but not remembered. That was the old David, the drunk David, the absent David. But there was a new David now, sober David, present David, the David who showed up to his daughter's wedding and remembered every second, the David who answered the phone and actually heard what was being said, the David who kept his promises because he was finally strong enough to make them. It took losing everything to find that David. It took a Christmas morning waking up to the horror of forgotten conversations. It took being uninvited to a wedding. It took hitting bottom so hard that there was nowhere left to fall. But he found him, that better version, that father version, that sober version, and he held on to him, day by day, hour by hour, one conversation at a time, one memory at a time, because in the end that's all we have, memories, moments, the times we were actually there, the conversations we actually remember, the love we actually showed up for. David Hasselhoff had spent years being absent, being forgotten, being a ghost in his own life, but not anymore. Now he was present, now he remembered, now he was there. And that phone call, the one he'd forgotten, the 23 minutes that were lost forever, became the wake-up call that changed everything, not because of what he remembered, but because of what he forgot, and what he promised himself he'd never forget again. His daughter's voice, her dreams, her life, her love. He'd remember now, all of it, because being a father wasn't about being famous. It wasn't about being the Hoff. It was about being there, truly there, sober, present, remembering. And finally, after all these years, David Hasselhoff understood what that meant.